Today we are doing part 3 of our series, Massachusetts and the American Revolution. We'll start with a quick review. Right at the first page, no taxation without representation, a famous slogan the colonists said to protest all the taxes the King of England was charging them. So March 1770, we have colonists throwing snow and ice at British soldiers. It ended up that the British soldiers killed 5 colonists. This is a picture of the famous engraving by Paul Revere of the Boston Massacre. It is at the Commonwealth Museum in Boston. A few years later, December 16th, 1773, at the Old South Meeting House, we have colonists meeting to discuss what should happen with the 3 tea ships in Boston Harbor. Eventually, the Sons of Liberty decided to dress up as Native Americans and dump all the tea in the harbor. This did not go over well with the King of England. In the meantime, the colonists were getting ready for war. They were collecting guns and weapons. They kept them in Concord. They were also recruiting and signing up Minutemen, who were colonists who could be ready in a few minutes to fight against the British. Paul Revere, very famous patriot, very talented. He lived in the north end of Boston. His house is still there. One of his important jobs was carrying important news and messages for the Patriots. In April 1775, Paul Revere rode to Lexington to warn that the British were coming to arrest Sam Adams and John Hancock. The big question was, are the British going to march by land, or are they going to take the shortcut by sea and then march? Paul Revere set up a friend to give him a signal at the Old North Church in Boston. If there was 1 lantern, the British were traveling by land. If there were 2, they were taking the shortcut and traveling by sea. When Paul Revere saw that there were 2 lanterns in the steeple of the Old North Church, he knew that he was going to be going by sea. He had friends row him across the Charles River. He got on his horse and he rode away into the night. At the same time, William Dawes took the land route to Concord and Lexington. And Paul Revere said the regulars are coming as he rode into the night. And why did he say this? Myth has him saying the British are coming, but everyone was British back then. They were under the control of the King of England. The regulars was how the colonists referred to British soldiers. So the next day after Paul Revere rode, April 19, 1775, we have very important battles happening in Concord and Lexington. If you live in Massachusetts, April 19th is a state holiday called Patriots' Day. At the Old North Bridge in Concord, there were shots fired between the colonists and the British. Later in time, famous poet Ralph Waldo Emerson called these shots the shot heard round the world. While marching back to Boston, the British encountered more colonists at Bunker Hill, and there was a third battle. These battles marked the beginning of the Revolutionary War in Massachusetts. One thing that's very important is on June 14th in 1777, Congress decided that the 13 colonies needed to stand united and have a new flag. This is what the original flag looked like. It had 13 red and white stripes and 13 stars. 13 is important because 13 represents the 13 colonies. So the Revolutionary War ended in 1781. The last battle is the Battle of Yorktown, which is in Virginia. After the battle, the colonists in England worked for many years to create a peace treaty or agreement, and that agreement is called the Treaty of Paris, and it was signed in 1783. And that is how the United States came to be its own country.